Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Andy, and welcome to this week's Team Kentucky Update. Today, we're starting how we usually start with great economic development news for our new Kentucky home. Since the beginning of my administration, we've now announced more than 1,100 private sector relocation or expansions, totaling $35 billion in new private sector investment. And last week, we passed the milestone of having created or announced 60,000 new jobs in the Commonwealth over the past 5 years. Just today, we announced we've broken another record. Kentucky has once again set an all time record for exports. We set an all time record for products shipped globally. The Commonwealth eclipsed the previous year's mark with $47.7 billion in exports in 2024. That is an 18.7% increase over the previous year, which was the previous record. So 2023 had been our best year ever for exports, and we just beat it by 18.7% last year. Canada once again led the way as Kentucky's top export destination with over $9.3 billion in products. Our relationship with Canada is critically important to Kentucky's economy. That's why I've been outspoken about the damages specifically of tariffs on Canada will do to the Commonwealth of Kentucky. The United Kingdom, France, China, and Mexico continued as the top 5 destinations for Kentucky-made products. Other top trade partners included Brazil, Netherlands, Malaysia, Germany, and Singapore. Aerospace products and parts remained our top export in 2024. That's something not everybody knows about Kentucky. Aerospace products were followed by motor vehicles and pharmaceuticals in the second and third spots. The global demand for Kentucky-made products made by hard-working Kentuckians right here in the Commonwealth has never been higher. Our commitment to developing partnerships all over the globe is critical for our long-term economic success, which is why I was proud to represent Kentucky on the global stage at the recent World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. Now more than ever, the rest of the world is realizing you just can't beat a Kentucky-made product. We also announced new progress in the Commonwealth's mission to maintain, develop, and retain its world-class workforce and keep our economy booming. Over 4,200 Kentuckians will receive skills training thanks to support provided through the Bluegrass State Skills Corporation. This month's approvals include $2.1 million in training support for companies and workforce groups across the state. The recipients include Bluegrass Business Consortium in Berea, Perfetti Van Mel in Erlanger, Rockcastle Regional Hospital and Respiratory Care Center in Mount Vernon, Jackson Purchase Medical Center in Mayfield, the Carriage House Companies, Inc. in Buckner, Stober Drives, Inc. in Maysville, Marathon Refining Logistics Services in Catlettsburg, and Advent Health in Manchester. The Commonwealth is home to a workforce that is second to none, but we've got to stay ahead of the curve, which is always reinvesting and ensuring our people have the very best skills training. The Bluegrass State Skills Corporation is crucial to our workforce training and development. It gives employees the tools necessary to be successful, and our businesses continue to build on Kentucky's record-breaking economic momentum. I also want to highlight continued site development efforts with a new build-ready site in Owen County, positioning the area for the future economic success and job creation. The new build-ready site located in the Owenton Industrial Park adds to the state's growing list of build-ready sites. The program continues to grow, and I'm excited to see yet another community benefit. The work that is happening in Owen County and across the Commonwealth is paving the way for companies to choose the Commonwealth for their new Kentucky home. I want to thank the leadership in Owen County, as well as state officials who helped make this site in the Owenton Industrial Park certified and ready for business. Our workforce starts in our public schools. And today we have some great news for our public schools, our great educators, and our wonderful students. You all know we lead an education-first administration. And when the Kentucky Department of Education said school districts would need to adjust their budgets to manage a multi-million-dollar funding shortfall, we started to work to find a solution. It's not right for our schools to face tough cuts in the middle of a school year. So our team, including State Budget Director and Executive Cabinet Secretary John Hicks, began talking with our Education Commissioner, Dr. Robbie Fletcher. Both are here with us today. By working together, I'm able to announce today that I'm authorizing the Commissioner's request to increase the fiscal year 2024-2025 SEEK General Fund appropriation to address the shortfall. The budget bill permits the Commissioner to request a $14.7 million increase in this appropriation if the required expenditures exceed the initial estimates, and for the Governor to be able to approve those funds. We do have the funds to get this done, and thus I've approved that $14.7 million increase for our schools. It won't have any negative impacts on any other areas of the budget. For a little context, the SEEK funding is a formula-based model that helps determine how much funding is for each public school based on things like the district's student makeup. And a shortfall occurred due to higher student enrollment than expected, as well as more students with special needs. Today, I'm excited to remove this pending burden on our public schools. And I'd like to invite Commissioner Fletcher up to talk more about what it means for our students and for our educators. Commissioner, thank you for your words.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. And on behalf of Kentucky's public schools, we express our sincere appreciation to Governor Beshear. His decision to increase the SEEK appropriation based on the language in House Bill 6 allows the Kentucky Department of Education to fully fund the statutorily required SEEK payments of $14.7 million to Kentucky's public schools. KDE's mission is to establish broad partnerships to provide leadership and support so that every student is equipped for the future. This action demonstrates what can be achieved for public schools and our students through collaborative efforts. Governor Beshear's decision to increase SEEK appropriation to meet the required payments is a significant development for our public schools and cannot be overstated. Again, thank you, Governor. And KDE will continue to collaborate with its partners in the General Assembly for potential future funding for those items conditioned on the availability of funds. To add, we appreciate the partnerships that are being built with the members of the General Assembly. Next, I also want to thank the staff of the Kentucky Department of Education, specifically Division Director Che Ritter, Associate Commissioner Matt Ross, and Deputy Commissioner Todd Allen. Also, our liaison, Dr. Brian Perry is with us today too. Their behind-the-scenes work provided timely data and insight for the governor while making this decision. Each of these gentlemen are truly all in for our students on a daily basis. Finally, congratulations to our public schools. Most importantly, congratulations to our school districts and our students. This is a great day for each. Thank you again, Governor. We appreciate you.
Thank you to our Kentucky Department of Education, the Commissioner. This 14.7 is the maximum amount I can do under that budget bill. We were able to get the final numbers earlier than originally expected, which allows us to fill this budget hole so that our schools can plan appropriately. So to all of our public educators, we care about you, we love you, and we need you. I hope that I can bring more funding in the future, especially for salaries, and that we will see universal pre-K hopefully sometime soon. So keep doing your great work. Commissioner, thank you for being here today. As governor, but also as a dad, one of my top priorities has always been and will always be making sure families across Kentucky are safe and that they feel safe. One way we do that is to ensure those who have committed a crime and have paid their debt to society don't reoffend. In other words, when they leave our jails and our prisons, that the crime that landed them there was the last crime that they commit. One of the ways we do that is to provide the tools necessary to succeed to these individuals. In this context, success means becoming a law-abiding citizen that supports his or her family. Success means becoming a role model for their children and a contributing member to their community. By preparing these Kentuckians for success, we reduce crime, we save tax dollars, and we heal broken families. When our people succeed outside our prison walls, Kentucky wins, and we're all safer for it. I'm proud to announce the work we're doing to help inmates re-enter society is working. Today, I'm announcing that Kentucky secured another record low recidivism rate, with nearly 70% of people released from state custody over the past 2 years have not been reincarcerated. To give you some context, when you look back to, say, 2015, we had about 14% more folks returning to prison, 14% more people reoffending than we do now. Since 2022, of the nearly 13,000 individuals who were released from state custody, 8,930 individuals did not return to custody. That means our communities are safer, crime is being reduced, and these folks and their families are doing better in life. My faith teaches me about the importance of second chances. Scripture tells us to forgive each other just as God has forgiven us. Through second chance opportunities, we've reduced recidivism. And we know that getting a good paying job is one of the most important steps to not only our state success and the success of our people, but the success of someone who leaves prison to not reoffend. We're now partnering with Ashland Community and Technical College to provide a new online associate's degree for inmates at Little Sandy Correctional Complex. We currently have 56 individuals enrolled with Ashland Community Technical College working to earn their degree. We have also established a reentry center at each of Kentucky's 14 state prisons. These centers are located inside the prisons with assigned reentry staff members. The reentry centers provide focused life skills training, preparing our inmates to successfully live in society. In partnership with the Ironworkers Local Union 70, we're developing a pre-apprenticeship program for inmates at North Point Training Center and Luther Luckett Correctional Complex. This is made possible through a $521,000 Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act statewide reserve fund award to the Ironworkers Local Union 70 for this purpose. When released, those who complete the 5-week program while they are still inside can apply for the Ironworkers Apprenticeship Program. This is a 2-year paid program where they'll have the opportunity to become skilled ironworkers, installing and assembling the structural steel and iron components that build the frameworks of our buildings and our bridges. This partnership is part of a larger effort to be teaching trades where you can make a good living to everyone inside our institutions. So when they leave the walls of that prison, that they can reunite with their family, support them, and have no excuses. It's their job to be a law-abiding citizen. We have a video from the Ironworkers Union, who are our proud partners in this, and we're grateful for their contribution.
Hey, this is Ryan Terry with Ironworkers Local 70 here in Louisville, Kentucky. I'd like to speak with you about a program we've got going on with the Kentucky Department of Corrections. Over the period of the next 2 years, we're going to be training 120 incarcerated individuals with some basic construction skills, some tasks such as welding and steel erection more oriented toward the ironwork industry, along with some teamwork and leadership training. The training is going to be conducted at 2 separate facilities, one being Luther Luckett Correctional Complex and the other being North Point Training Center. We hope to give some opportunity to some folks who otherwise might not have gotten one while drawing from an untapped labor pool. We're excited about integrating some of these individuals into our workforce in the near future. We'd like to thank Governor Beshear and everyone at the Department of Corrections for all the hard work they put into this. We're looking forward to our partnership now and as we move into the future. Thank you.
North Point will also have a welding program taught by Bluegrass Community and Technical College, allowing inmates to obtain an associate's degree in applied sciences. This is just the beginning of our work. We're going to have more announcements as we move forward. When you think about it, thousands of people are released from custody every year. So if we invest in their success, if we reduce the amount of people who reoffend, who commit a second or a third crime, we ensure that we're making our community safer and we're increasing our workforce, repairing those families. Our new Kentucky home is a place where we want everyone to reach their dreams and those that are re-entering society to be an important contributor to it. I also want to update Kentuckians on an important action we took earlier today. Our office has now joined the nationwide litigation to stop the federal funding freeze coming out of Washington, D.C. This morning, state attorneys general filed the amended complaint and added my office, the office of the governor here in Kentucky, as a plaintiff. We have already seen the harms that this illegal freeze has caused. We were shut out of the Medicaid system for most of a day. Multiple state Medicaid programs reported being unable to access their portal that handles federal payments. Without Medicaid, our rural hospitals would shut down and so many healthcare workers would lose their jobs. We saw during that day changes in our Appalachian Regional Commission account, money that goes directly into creating jobs and providing better healthcare and infrastructure in Appalachia. And we currently cannot get more than $6 million in funds to repair abandoned mine lands where they present a danger to our people. I've compared this situation to when former Governor Matt Bevin tried to cut the amount of money that our universities were receiving. Our General Assembly had appropriated a specific amount and said it shall go to them. The governor claimed that as the executive, he could decide how much money different groups got and that he'd have the power to freeze them. As Attorney General, I sued and we won. Our state Supreme Court, just like in the past, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that Congress or the General Assembly makes the appropriations and the executive doesn't have the power to not go through with a program and not provide funding that's there. For us as a state, this is important first because we take our Constitution and the U.S. Constitution seriously, but also many of these programs operate on reimbursements. So right now we have over $7 million that we have paid as a state or that other groups are that under agreements and federal law, the federal government has to reimburse us. That's what's frozen right now. So it's not just these programs that aren't getting the dollars that they deserve in some of these areas. It's that the state relying on the federal government, on the laws they've passed, and on the agreements we have in place is out this money until it starts flowing again. While the overall freeze has been blocked by a federal judge, we still see areas that are not complying with the order from that judge. So we're going to be aggressive. This is funding that the people of Kentucky are owed. The individuals that under the AML fund may need an area where they see rock slides that were created due to past mining repaired so that they are safe. We don't know if those individuals are Democrats or Republicans, and it doesn't matter. This program was created to help them, and we should be helping them. We deserve to be able to rely on the agreements that a federal government has made, regardless of what party is in power. And I was raised to say my word is my bond. And when I sign a contract, I go through with it. When I sign an agreement, I go through with it. And this is just asking our federal government to do the same. I want to make it clear I would have taken this action against any president, regardless of party, and I've proven that in the past as Attorney General at different times, taking on the Obama administration and or as governor, disagreeing with some things in the Biden administration. I've said it a bunch. My job isn't to be the best Democratic governor I can be, but the best governor of the Commonwealth of Kentucky that I can be. I'm going to keep standing up for us and our people. Somebody else who does that every day is our Lieutenant Governor, Jacqueline Coleman. I'm going to turn it over to her for a few announcements right after that update.
That's right. Thank you. So last week, I joined Commissioner of Agriculture, Jonathan Schell, and Commissioner of Education, Robbie Fletcher, to announce that March 17th through the 21st will be the first annual Agriculture Education Week in Kentucky. And I'm excited to say that Governor Beshear is going to make it official with a proclamation that week. Agriculture and education are the ties that bind in every community across Kentucky. Kentucky's public schools are the largest employer in almost every county. And agriculture is the most crucial industry, not just in Kentucky, but around the world. And yet, here is the reality that we face in Kentucky. Our schools remain undervalued and under-resourced. There is no funding appropriated for teacher professional development or classroom resources in our state budget. The average farmer in Kentucky is 57 years old, and the number of family farms is in decline, which means that we are facing an aging farming population. And with every passing generation, more and more kids truly understand where their food comes from. So Commissioner Shell, Commissioner Fletcher, and I decided to do something about it. Together, we agree that supporting public education and our agriculture community is imperative to Kentucky's future. But we knew we had to think outside the box. Our agriculture education in Kentucky is very strong, with 182 programs and 321 agriculture teachers across the state. So the focus of Ag Education Week is to broaden the base of agriculture experiences by reaching children as early as elementary school in hopes that we pique their interest and get them engaged in agriculture education as soon as possible. It will offer our youngest students an exciting opportunity to engage in dynamic, hands-on agricultural learning experiences because agriculture touches every subject, from STEM to policy, math, literature, history, and so much more. So by reaching elementary school students in a way that we've never done before in Kentucky, we can build a stronger foundation that will help grow organizations like FFA, 4-H, Farm Bureau, and all of our commodity groups for generations to come. So now I want to share a promotional video with you about Ag Education Week.
Hello, everybody. I am Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman, here with my friends Jonathan Shell, Commissioner of the Kentucky Department of Agriculture, and Robbie Fletcher, Commissioner of the Kentucky Department of Education.
We are excited to announce that March 17th through the 21st will be the inaugural Agriculture Education Week. This week combines two of Kentucky's signature industries, agriculture and education, bringing it to life for students across the Commonwealth.
During Ag Education Week, every elementary student throughout Kentucky will engage in learning more about agriculture. We are partnering with our schools to provide lesson plans and resources to make it easy for our teachers.
Ag Education Week will broaden access for all students to agriculture and its rich history in the Commonwealth.
And teachers will be able to connect agriculture to real life skills by teaching about sustainability, nutrition, and how agriculture intersects with nearly every career in Kentucky.
We are thrilled about this initiative. Agriculture and education are foundational to who we are as Kentuckians. So I encourage you to check out this website to learn how you can make the inaugural Ag Education Week a success in your community and school.
All right, thank you. All right, next up, as you all know, the Beshear Coleman administration is and always will be education first. And those are not just words. We back it up with our actions every single day. We believe every Kentuckian has the right to accessible education and job training so that they can provide for themselves and change the trajectory of their families' lives for generations. Governor Beshear takes the podium every week and announces more jobs and more economic development investments coming to Kentucky. Kentuckians have more career and economic opportunity available to them now than they ever have before. But record job creation and investment requires a workforce that is educated and well-trained. 5 years ago, at the beginning of our first term, Governor Beshear and I established the Commonwealth Education Continuum. I'm honored to serve as a co-chair alongside CPE's President, Dr. Aaron Thompson, and KDE's Commissioner, Dr. Robbie Fletcher. It brought together all education and workforce authorities in the state and charged us all with working together to create a true cradle-to-career educational system in Kentucky. One of the issues that we quickly realized was that far too many Kentuckians were not only unaware of the careers that were available to them in their communities, but also unaware of the education and training required to obtain these careers. By 2031, 63% of Kentucky careers, or 1.3 million jobs, will require training or education beyond a high school diploma. The Continuum envisioned a one-stop shop where Kentuckians of all ages can go to find out information aimed at connecting them and with advising resources about career pathways, financial aid, and college data. Last week, we announced futurity.org. Futurity will help Kentuckians see high-demand jobs in their community, to plan ahead and take classes they need to earn credentials required for these careers. The website is a joint project between the Kentucky Council on Post-Secondary Education, the Kentucky Department of Education, and the Kentucky Center for Statistics. Here are a few things that are included on this website. Job descriptions and wages for more than 700 careers. Highlights of in-demand Kentucky careers. cost, completion, and debt information on all public and private universities, community colleges, and technical schools. A listing of the majors offered at Kentucky public and private universities, and all career pathways offered at each Kentucky high school and technical center. The website will be promoted in Kentucky middle and high schools, as well as the Kentucky Career Center and all adult education offices. I'm so proud of the work that we've done to break down the silos that naturally exist in the educational system in order to benefit all of the working families in Kentucky. Futurity is a big step towards our goal of providing every Kentuckian with not only career opportunities, but the tools they need to seize those opportunities. And I'm going to turn it right back over to the governor. Thank you.
All right. Today, we're going to do a Throwback Thursday. It was 5 years ago this week I had the opportunity to right a wrong. There was Today, we're going to do a Throwback Thursday. It was 5 years ago this week I had the opportunity to right a wrong, a type of wrong that we saw in the culture of the 19th and much of the 20th century in America. As governor, at that time, I promoted then Colonel Charles Young to the posthumous rank of Brigadier General in the Commonwealth of Kentucky through our National Guard. Charles Young was born to enslaved parents in Mason County in 1864. But despite that, he would go on to become just the third African-American graduate of West Point, a civil rights leader, a Buffalo soldier, national park superintendent, military attaché, academic, professor, mentor, commander, intellectual, and an inspiration. Unfortunately, at the time of Young's retirement, Colonel was the highest rank an African American had ever been offered or served in the U.S. Army, and we know that simply wasn't right. And that's why I promoted him to that honorary rank of Brigadier General, but we didn't stop there. The next year, I wrote to President Biden encouraging him to promote Young officially within the U.S. Army. And in November 2021, it happened. In a promotion ceremony in April at the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, Young's alma mater, he was promoted, meaning the first African-American general in the history of the U.S. Army is from Kentucky. Finally, in March of 2023, I signed a Senate joint resolution that designated the route from Camp Nelson in Jessamine County to the Kentucky-Ohio border at Young's birthplace of Mays Lick as the Brigadier General Charles Young Memorial Historical Corridor. This route will honor Brigadier General Charles Young and ensure that everyone who drives down this corridor for generations to come will know his name. Wanted to make sure that we continue to tell General Young's story every month, but certainly in Black History Month. And I'm proud here in Kentucky that despite our U.S. Department of Defense not recognizing Black History Month, that we're celebrating it in Kentucky. All three branches of government, Democrats, Republicans, and independents, simply doing what's right. Colonel Young, now General Young's story is one reason we have to remember there are still a lot of injustices out there, both historical and present, and it's our job to listen, to learn, and to address them head on. All right, today I'm also excited to invite Kentuckians to the 57th annual Governor's Prayer Breakfast. It'll be my fourth. The prayer breakfast will take place at 7:30 a.m. on Tuesday, March 11th at the William Exum Center at the Kentucky State University here in Frankfort. Doors open at 7 a.m. The annual celebration recognizes Kentuckians living their faith through service to others. We'll get to hear some beautiful music from the Franklin County High School choristers who were supposed to be a part of the 2020 prayer breakfast. That was one of the first events impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. And our big feature this year will be a conversation with former University of Kentucky Wildcat and current New York Giants wide receiver Wan'Dale Robinson, who of course is from right here in Frankfort. I've gotten to have some great conversations during these events and very excited to be able to talk to and learn from Wan'Dale. If your church, club, or organization would like to attend as a group, it's easy to reserve a table by going online and filling out the form at governor.ky.gov/prayer breakfast, which is on your screen. But of course, you're more than welcome to come by yourself, and individual tickets are available at the door. It's going to be an incredible morning, and we hope to see you all there. Once again, the governor's prayer breakfast this year will be at 7:30 a.m. on Wednesday, March 11th, just up the road at Kentucky State University. And finally, that brings me to this week's Team Kentucky All-Star, Yared Naguse. Last Saturday, during the final competition of the Millrose Games in New York City, Louisville native Yared set a new indoor mile world record of 3 minutes, 46.63 seconds. The win marked the third straight Wanamaker Mile first place titles for Yared, and it's the first time an American has held an indoor or outdoor world record on the track since the 80s. And this comes after he took bronze at the men's 1,500-meter race at the Paris Olympics last year. Congratulations to Yared. I know this success couldn't be possible without the years of hard work and a moment that makes me feel just a little bit old. I used to play softball with one of his track coaches back in, I think, my late 20s. Thankfully, he is 10 times the athlete that both of us were put together. Thank you to Yared for representing Kentucky. I've also gotten to meet him on numerous occasions. He's somebody that makes us look good, makes us proud. He is certainly doing great by both himself, his family, but also lifting up the Commonwealth of Kentucky. All right, with that, we've got 3 journalists in the studio and 4 online. We'll start with Hannah.
Hi, Governor. I know there's a piece of legislation in the Senate that would prohibit the Department of Corrections from providing funding for cross-sex hormones as well as transgender surgeries. The bill's sponsor, Senator Mike Wilson, was critical of your administration on the floor when he said he was filing this bill. What is your response to his criticism that your administration quietly authorized taxpayer-funded gender transition treatments through an internal memo, and what is your response to this bill?
The Commonwealth of Kentucky has not provided funding for any gender reassignment surgeries to any prisoners in our Department of Corrections. And what we have tried to do is what we have to do under federal law. There's a federal law called PREA, the Prison Rape Elimination Act. And it, in its contents and through how the courts have interpreted it, say we have to provide certain treatment to inmates. It also means that certain inmates that are more likely to be subject to violence in prison, that we have to go through certain procedures, and that includes our transgender inmates. At least one of our circuits have said if you don't provide any types of treatments or services at all, you're violating their 8th Amendment rights, and the federal government can revoke federal funding that you have. Now, there are a lot of people who are out there trying to make what is impacting less than 1% of the population really political, and that's what they're doing. They're trying to make it really political. All we're trying to do is follow federal law, and you can hear how political it is when they deny my stance on it. And what I've said is that those that are in prison don't deserve better and more affordable health care than law-abiding citizens outside of prison. All right, McKenna.
Going back to the federal funding lawsuit, can you talk about why you wanted to file separately from your office than with the AG's office? And was there any discussions with the AG's office about it?
We didn't have these discussions with the AG's office. When I was Attorney General, Governor Bevin would file lawsuits and or join lawsuits through his office. It's Governor Bevin, his official capacity as governor, and this is Governor Andy Beshear in his official capacity as governor. So it's something that I've seen the procedure both when I was AG and now, and there haven't been any changes in it. The reason I wanted to join this federal funding lawsuit is to make sure we get the money that we're entitled to under contract. And so being a part of the lawsuit means that when we aren't getting those dollars, I can bring that directly in front of the court and hopefully get court orders to require that type of payment. Otherwise, we're relying on other people to hopefully do that for us, or to take a court order that might not mention us specifically and tell the federal government that they have to follow it. So in other words, this lets us enforce our contractual rights and programs and payments created under federal statute directly. And that's my goal is just to get it resolved. I want to get the $6 million in the Abandoned Mine Land Act money because those are projects that we are already doing. So again, to me, it's not about being with Democrat this or Republican that. It's having Kentucky in a place where we can make the federal government meet its promised obligations. Isaiah.
Two questions here. One has to do with abortion rights, the other DEI. We'll start with abortion. I was at a press conference this morning that had to do Representative Lindsey Burke talking about some bills to essentially repeal the current ban as well as provide protections for folks going out of state. My big takeaway, she specifically said exceptions don't go far enough. I know that there are Republicans and Democrats who support exceptions, who have filed bills over it, and then sort of some are saying it's also not enough. It seems like there's just so many stances on abortion. Where do you believe the focus should be on what the legislature should focus
So I don't think there are necessarily different stances. I believe that, first of all, victims of rape and incest deserve options. And I believe that certainly all of the Democratic members would vote for that if it's up, because those people who have been harmed and violated deserve options. Now, that doesn't mean that those should be the only options or the only exceptions out there. I believe that women should be able to make their own healthcare decisions. And so I'd like to see more availability out there. I certainly believe that Roe v. Wade had it right, that these would be safe, legal procedures with certain reasonable restrictions as ultimately decided by the courts under scientific testimony and fact that's out there. I believe that that was a much better system than what we have now. So while I believe that some of the approach in bills that are filing might sound different, I believe many people are on that place where we should get back to something that's reasonable, to where a General Assembly isn't deciding the rights that women have to their own body, that women and their doctor can make those decisions under, that same rubric that used to exist, safe and legal procedures with reasonable restrictions out there determined by the courts.
DEI Representative Decker filed a bill that many of us expected, specifically actually talks about schools, DEI programs actually making schools less diverse. We've seen UK, other programs roll back. I mean, do you believe there's still a need for this bill? I mean, just given what some schools have been, what are your...
I haven't gotten all the way through that bill as it was filed today. What I can say is I believe diversity always makes us stronger. And if we are not intentional in some of our steps related to diversity, history has taught us that it'll go the wrong way. We have some of the best increases in postgraduate admissions in the entire country. And when you delve down into that, it's because our underrepresented populations are suddenly starting to go to college at higher rates. And that's because the colleges have been out there and recruiting. And I want to make sure that this doesn't prevent universities from potentially making decisions that might not be based on race, but are based on where are the populations where enough people aren't going to college, and therefore those are populations we should recruit from. Is it going to prevent them from doing what could be the smart thing for their university? Or if you think about this, it doesn't apply to business, but in the context of business. So I think it's really important to analyze all the implications that this will have. And I believe there's at least a couple unintended consequences that we're looking at fleshing out, and hopefully we'll be able to offer here in the future. But anytime you put this type of sweeping thing in place, and especially say, we're going to come in and punish you if we think you are promoting diversity. Well, there are lots of things that people do that they could be doing for lots of different reasons that could be perceived as promoting diversity. And it would be really unfortunate if we stopped some of those initiatives that are simply good for a university, a business, a government, or otherwise. You even look at things that it appears that scholarships, say in some fields where there aren't enough women that would be directed at women in the future, would have problems if they aren't already in place right now. Those are things that have existed at universities that have been seen as helpful. Okay, Tom Latek.
Good afternoon, Governor, and thank you, sir. I was just wondering, it looks like the National Weather Service has been talking about quite a bit of flood potential for this weekend. And I was wondering what kind of preparations you're aware of that emergency management and the National Guard perhaps are involved in at this point.
Yeah, we have a possibility of having serious flash flooding on Saturday and potential flooding out of our rivers and streams Saturday night into Sunday. Most of the state is going to be under a flood watch, and that may grow into a flood warning from early Saturday through midday on Sunday. And if you go to the next slide, this is one that has grown since the first National Weather Service update I got. More of our state is looking at 4 to 6 inches of rain than was predicted yesterday, and we think this may grow even further. But when we first saw this, if you look at the lighter orange, 3 to 4 inches, it wasn't nearly this amount of the state. This is enough to cause flooding anywhere. Originally, we thought we were going to see flooding primarily in eastern Kentucky. Now, if we can go to the next one, it's all of Kentucky. As the National Weather Service says, they only see a forecast like this about 7 days a year. That's about 2% of their forecast. A moderate risk of flooding for virtually all of Kentucky. And then let's go to the last one. This shows different riverbanks on a best case. If you can go back, on a best case and a worst case scenario. And what it shows is even in the best case with the red, you can see a lot of flooding throughout Kentucky. And then when you get into the purple, that could be pretty significant coming off of those rivers. So we are pre-positioning and or alerting swiftwater rescue teams. We're working with Fish and Wildlife to make sure they are ready. We're talking with neighboring National Guard to make sure that we have the number of helicopters that we might need. And depending on how the forecast is going into tomorrow, we'll be pre-positioning National Guard for assistance and help. That's something we're doing the planning stage on right now. But before we call up and mobilize these individuals, we want to see at least one last forecast. We've already checked in that availability for our state parks, if that's necessary, for a couple of days with people who might be displaced. And we're even checking on the areas that we've had our travel trailers previously and kind of checking them against this map and seeing what else we might need. While we do not believe that it is a July 2022 event, that was about 15 inches of rain to give you some perspective. We are taking this seriously. Most important thing for people out there, standing water, do not drive through. That is my biggest concern. My second biggest concern is flooding that might occur Saturday night into Sunday morning. But just wait it out if you have water in or around your area. Again, this is going to be an event through Sunday, and we want to make sure that everybody is careful. All right, Karen Czar.
Thank you, Governor. I'm piggybacking on to Tom's question. For Eastern Kentucky in particular, we've talked to emergency management. Obviously, they're prepared as well. How concerned are you in particular for the area that is still recovering from the flooding in 2022? And what lessons have you learned that will make things easier this time around if there needs to be special care and help needed in that area? Thank you.
So let's go to the map that shows how much rain. So Karen, the previous map that we had that shows the different colors of red and there we go. The previous map had this worse area 4 to 6 right over where we had the flooding in July of 2022. As you can see, it's not covering that full area. It's a little more in central Kentucky. Though certainly 3 to 4 inches can be significant. Now, 3 to 4 inches is something that a lot of these areas have dealt with. maybe not regularly, but have that experience. We're already working with the emergency management groups in each area to be ready. This time, one thing we're doing extra is pre-positioning the swiftwater rescue teams because we have more knowledge of it. So we will have more boats ready to go into the water for rescues this time at a moment's notice in different parts of the state, more so than we've ever had. And we have a better catalog of where we would house people if we had to, how many helicopters we have, just all through it. We've been able to go through our checklist from 2022 and make sure that we're looking at each and every part as we move forward dealing with disasters in Kentucky. So if the same area got flooded, the one thing that we would have is the travel trailer areas already set up, and with each one takes about $500,000 or $250,000 of infrastructure because these are facilities that people will live in for a year. So you got to have the gas and the power, and it's all got to be safe. So that's already there. So we could run travel trailers if we had to in the same area. That's not the case for every other area in the state. So we have our tornado areas where we have that infrastructure in place. We have our flooding area where we have it, but the rest of the state, if we have a major natural disaster where we need that intermediate housing option, we'll have to go out and build it out, in that timetable that will delay when people could get in them. So one thing I've asked the General Assembly to consider doing this session is give us a grant pool of about $5 million where we can build out 10 other areas throughout the state. So you think about during the tornadoes, it took us about 2 months to have people in travel trailers. In Eastern Kentucky, it took about 2 weeks, 6 months later to have people in travel trailers. We want to get the infrastructure into where it would only take 2 days if something happened. All right, Jonathan Gregg from Spectrum.
Mr. Governor, good afternoon. On the topic of tariffs and tax credits, this week Ford Motor CEO Jim Farley had some strong warnings on what tariffs on aluminum and steel would have on truck plants or car plants like in Louisville, but also warned about potential significant impacts on Louisville SK if the Trump administration repealed tax incentives for electric vehicle battery production. Is your response to both of those items that the CEO was warning about this week?
My response is President Trump inherited an economy where people haven't felt the positive movement, but it was absolutely there with significant growth, with new industries building out. And his plans and approach right now risks tanking that economy in a way that will hurt people. President Trump's tariffs and threatened tariffs on Canada and Mexico will increase the price of food and increase the price of gas. And the amount that gas will cost more will be the Trump tax based solely on his tariffs. The price of food that will increase will be Trump's tax on food caused solely by his tariffs. And this isn't some act of Congress. This is something that one person who told us that he would lower prices would do to the American people. And in Kentucky, we get hit the hardest, or at least close to the hardest. Then you look at Kentucky being such a huge auto producing state. So when you see the types of tariffs that the president is either putting in or threatening, it's going to hit every auto producing state. And I would hope a president that said we're going to make more cars in America would do things that helped us make more cars in America. And the idea of fighting the future with EVs is going to put him on the wrong side of history, but it puts him on the wrong side of the people in Kentucky that voted for him. We've announced about 10,000 EV jobs in Kentucky, and he won Kentucky by 30 points. And so if you do the math, if he causes us to lose these EV jobs, he is eliminating jobs from the very people who voted for him. And we're counting on him to help for their future. This is an area where we can be a leader. And if the president truly believes we ought to be making things in America that we need, this EV incentive is helping to create the manufacturing, like Blue Oval, that the head of Ford is saying is threatened. I believe that the last movable voters ended up electing Donald Trump because they believed he was less focused on culture war issues and more focused on lowering the cost of things. What we've seen since he's been in office is an obsession with culture war issues and a willingness to gamble our economic gains on non-economic issues. My hope is that they knock it off, along with areas like threatening our national security with the number of buyouts that could occur in the CIA. I'll just close by saying I lost a friend in 9/11. The intelligence community is incredibly important, and some of the things they're doing are making us less safe. I hope that cooler heads will prevail, but I'm going to do what I have to do to protect the people of Kentucky, to ensure that our programs can continue, and to do my best that no matter what they're doing in Washington, D.C., we can continue our historic economic momentum. It's a long answer to a targeted question. Raina from WDRB.
Hi. So I have a couple of questions, but first I wanted to ask, kind of piggybacking off of his question, the Trump administration obviously paused funding on the national EV charging program. How is that going to impact the Blue Oval plants in Glendale? I mean, are there concerns for the plans to keep making batteries?
And what are the other questions? All right, send in the other questions. On this one, the NEVI program, which is the charging stations. We received a memo saying not to incur any new obligations. Didn't say they were freezing funding that was already out there or had already been obligated. So we sent a letter back that shows exactly how much we've already obligated through different vendors building out charging stations in Kentucky. We've obligated $32.87 million of the roughly $69.5 million that was allocated to Kentucky. We expect to be reimbursed or to see those payments flow for the $32.87 million. But remember, this came through an act of Congress. They're saying that we need to not have new obligations until we have new guidance. But I do not believe that they can frustrate that act of Congress and try to come out with guidance that says you're not going to do any more of these at all. I don't think the charging stations themselves threaten Blue Oval, but certainly the things that will increase the pace of people buying EVs are more chargers, lower cost, and those credits coming online. But growth is rarely linear, and we are seeing growth in the EV market even without those things in effect right now. And we're seeing more private sector chargers come online every day. So I actually expect a little bit of volatility, but for the uptake of EVs to continue, especially among two-car families that are having to see President Trump's policies raise the price of gas at the pump. And an EV is a pretty good option where you don't have to pay that Trump tax on your gas. Thank you all very much.